Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. We are hosting this elevator town hall meeting to go through safety, use of elevators, and then also we're going to take a moment to go over the upcoming project, the elevator modernization project. So with us today, we have myself, Myrna Coronado. I'm the building manager. Lauren McCloskey, Assistant General Manager. Andy Franzen, Director of Security. George Mendoza, the Assistant Director of Security. We have Tim Towen, who's our elevator consultant. Matt Pike, he's going to talk about passenger safety. Seth Nallett, he's our service supervisor. Kevin Miner, there he is, who's our elevator technician. We have John Boyd, who's Senior Sales Executive overseeing the modernization, with Tim Moran, who's also the project manager. So thank you again, everyone. We will be recording the session for those who were unable to make it today so that they can watch this at any time at their leisure. And I'll be sending that link out to everyone as well. I encourage everyone to please share this information. It is going to impact how you travel through the elevators and also our new security key card system. So the more we share this information, the better we will be, especially, to try to mitigate any complaints. All right. First, we're going to have Matt Pike speak about the elevator safety.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matt Pike. I'm the Director of Passenger Safety for Kone North America. I'm based in our North American Operations Center in Moline, Illinois. I oversee and help out all of our branches and customers in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. So thanks for having me today. Just wanted to share just a few safety slides with everyone, both on elevators and escalators, safety do's and don'ts, as well as talk a little bit about entrapments to start off the meeting. So if anyone has any questions as we're going, please don't hesitate to just throw them out. So from an elevator do standpoint, as you can see, we're talking about always wait for the next available elevator. We just want to make sure that there's not an overcrowding or the capacity, anything like that. We want to make sure that there's plenty of elevators here that can handle the load, so just make sure that you're waiting for the next elevator. Also, we always encourage everyone to use the door open button when you're inside the cab. If you see someone coming or something along those lines, don't just stick your arms through the door of the elevator. Kind of think of an elevator as a human body, right, where the controller that runs the elevator is its brain. And if you're holding the button inside the car, the door open button, then you're telling the brain that you want that to happen. So it's something that's saying this is a safe action. Whereas if you're sticking your arm between the door, you're breaking a safety circuit, the mechanical or the electronic infrared door edge that's there to stop that door, and that's a safety circuit. So you're telling that elevator, hey, we want to stop and reopen the doors because there's a safety issue here, but that's not really the case. So the door open, door close buttons are there for reasons. They do work. So we just always encourage everyone to use those. And then once somebody sees that happening, then everyone follows along in those same lines. In the event of an emergency or an elevator entrapment, there is an alarm button in the car. So just make sure to press that alarm button. And that will contact building security, and then they will be the ones to respond and get in touch with our on-site mechanic to be able to help free the trapped passengers as quickly as possible. So, and then also we want to make sure that everyone's paying attention to the elevator indicators, not just in the lobby, but on each one of your floors when you're going between the floors. We know there's the large bank of elevators. Once the car lobby light dings and you hear that, make sure that you try to make your way over to the entrance as quickly as possible. The doors are on about a 4 to 5 second hold, and then they're timed out to ready to go to obviously keep the passenger flow moving throughout the building. So even though we're all extremely busy in our day, it's always a great practice and to share with everyone to just kind of put the phone to the side, while you're using the elevators, not just waiting for the elevators in the lobby, but even in the car. You will be surprised how quickly the passenger flow will improve if you're not using your telephones and you're actually just paying attention to what the car we need to be using and what floor we're coming up to be able to shift people in and out of the cars in a much quicker, timely fashion. So then from an elevator don't standpoint, again, we kind of talked about this, but don't stop the doors with a body part or something else. They are mechanical pieces of equipment. We are always doing maintenance on the equipment, making sure that all of the equipment is working properly. But nevertheless, it still is a mechanical piece of equipment, and so we want to make sure that we're doing it right by pushing the hall push button station, the door open, door close buttons, and not sticking an object or something in there. It just takes away that chance of maybe a finger getting pinched in the door or something along those lines, or your arm being hit by the door. The other thing too, the threshold of the elevator. So the car sills, it's the metal tracks on the floor that the doors travel on. That's the threshold going in and out of the elevator. We just ask that everyone step over that instead of on it. It's just from a safety standpoint, high heels or any type of heeled shoes can definitely get stuck in there, or you could trip a little bit easier. So stepping over that threshold is always a good practice to make sure that you're doing. Same from a transportation standpoint. If you have any large objects or something like that, we have multiple service elevators that have access to different floors throughout the building, and the service elevator goes to every single floor. If you need something that's large and needs to be transported, it's always best to use those, and to if you need something that's more specialized, talking with building security in advance to be able to work with them to actually use and maybe hold the car there for you instead of transporting it in the passenger cars. Common sense, but again, always something that we need to keep in mind is during a fire to not use the elevators, making sure that we're using the nearest stairway around, and having that discussion with everyone on your floor of what your standard meeting place is and things like that. So we just don't want anybody to be within the elevators. And then finally, never intentionally drop items, but also even if there's an accident and then somebody were to drop something in those door tracks, those metal sills are on the ground like I talked about before, or if it were to fall in between them and go down into the elevator shaft, just let building security know. Don't try to clean those out yourself. The doors are on a timer, and if after 2 or 3 resets, then they'll go into something that's called nudging. That's when the doors will just start to buzz and they'll close about half speed. That's just another safety feature to let you know that you have to get out of the way. Those doors are going to shut, so the controller can reset and the car can take off. Also the debris in the tracks can easily cause problems with the doors opening and closing, or other type of issues that could lead to shutdowns or door operation issues. So we just want to make sure that if anything like that were to occur, just let building security know, and so we can get in there as quickly as possible to help address it. So from an escalator standpoint, that's the do's and don'ts. From the escalator standpoint, in the event of an emergency, every escalator at the top and the bottom has emergency stop buttons. So if you were to see someone that is falling or gets a piece of clothing caught or anything along those lines, there's a stop button at the very top and the very bottom of the unit, right around the handrail turnaround area that you can easily push to stop the unit. So just keep that in mind, and that's not just for this building, but really any escalator. It's always a great practice to make sure that you're standing more towards the center of the step and holding onto the handrail. I kind of go back to the elevator where we're talking about the phones. Everyone's really busy and we're always on our phones, but it's always a great practice for just that length of time when you're on the escalator to go ahead and just hold the handrail and keep your phone in your pocket while you're traveling. Another thing too to keep in mind is making sure that we're not congregating around the entrance or exit areas when you're using the escalator. The escalator is moving at a set rate of speed, and other passengers need to also get off of it. And if you are talking with someone and you're going to go separate ways, make sure you're moving away from that area. So making sure that you're not clogging up the area, because the other passengers will not have anywhere to go. So from a don't standpoint, I always kind of like to jokingly say that we don't have freight escalators, so we have freight elevators, and that's why we need to transport large and bulky objects in the elevator. So don't try to go floor to floor. Even if it is just a quick, easy solution to do that, make sure that you're always using the elevators. Never attempt to use a wheeled device on an escalator. That goes for a wheelchair, a baby stroller, a shopping cart, or even a little further to like a cane or a walker. All those, not only the wheels, everything that have rubber on the bottom of them, and as you're moving down, that rubber can easily just grab onto the side of the escalator if it's a little too close, and then that can twist, and then what that's going to do is end up making you a projectile falling forward or backward, and then the other passengers can also be impacted because you become a domino or a bowling ball, and so that could really impact everyone else. So we always want to say that to use the elevators in those cases. I understand that there's a lot of different things that everyone's probably seen or heard online, and that say different, but from a safety standpoint, it always should be using the elevator. And then not to have pets on the escalators. I understand that obviously there's certain instances where someone will have a seeing eye dog or even something along the lines of a support animal. And we just want to use the elevators. Their paws can get caught on the treads, those metal steps, because they are running nonstop, can have a little bit sharper edges that we won't feel from our shoe standpoint and doesn't do any damage, but the animal's paws absolutely could. Also, especially with dogs, they really can't see a difference unless there's a color transition. And if you have an escalator that has the same kind of transition walk on and off area that is the same color or approximate same color as the steps itself, your animal won't actually see that difference, and so they won't know when and where to step. So that's again another reason. One other thing that's not on here, but I always like to definitely share it with everyone, and that is if an escalator goes out of service, you should just the building security should really barricade that instead of using it as a stairway. And the only reason why is because the step riser transition is anywhere between 8 inches and 8.5 inches, depending on the age of the escalator. Where your steps in your home or in the hallway here are 7-inch risers, and that inch to 1.5 difference doesn't sound like a lot. But since you were born and started to walk, your brain's been hardwired to 7 inches. And so that extra inch to 1.5 inches, either walking down or up, you can catch a toe or your foot's looking for a place to stop and then you can fall forward. So it's just always a best practice if you see a stopped escalator to go to one that is working or go to the elevators until it can be up and operational. And with an on-site technician here, the response times can be a lot quicker to be able to help address those needs. So now Seth and I are going to talk a little bit about elevator entrapments.
Yeah, so again, I'm Seth. I'm the service supervisor for Kone for this account, so everything service, maintenance related kind of gets run through me in the office side of things. And with the fact that we do have a dedicated technician here 40 hours a week, unfortunately entrapments do happen. It's just a part of what occurs in elevators with all the different components we have that make the elevators run. They will happen from time to time. So we just really wanted to kind of go over just some things to know in case you ever are in that incident. So as Matt touched on a little bit earlier, the elevators are equipped with a intercom system that goes to security. It is manned 24/7. And the second that they get that alert that there's an entrapment, they're radioing Kevin, and Kevin is dropping everything he's doing, and he's going through the process to go ahead and get them out of the elevator. With that, we do, there is step-by-step procedures as far as what we do to respond to an entrapment as quickly as possible. Sometimes what will happen is there will be an entrapment that occurs after hours when Kevin is not on site. And at that point in time, security is reaching out to all of us at Kone. We have group messages going on that we all get right away. And the second that something does happen, we're going ahead, we're reaching out to whoever is on call, and we're getting them over here as fast as possible to get you guys out of the elevators as quickly and as safely as possible. And then just one thing, by city code, trained emergency personnel or licensed elevator technicians are supposed to be the only people to let people out of the elevators. So that's something that we'll rely on Kevin or any of our other mechanics to get you out of the elevator as safely and quickly as possible.
And emergency personnel is real, in essence, just a firefighter. And then just some helpful tips to keep in mind and definitely to share with others. If you ever do find yourself entrapped in an elevator, make sure that you call and communicate a lot of these different things to the building security, but also just to your other fellow passengers. Remain calm and breathe normally while you're in the elevator. Every single elevator shaft has fresh air vents. So it always has circulating fresh air throughout the entire length of the shaft, so you'll never run out of any fresh air or anything like that. A lot of times you don't realize that you're claustrophobic until you actually get trapped in an elevator. So if you find that you're pacing back and forth, or you find that your heart may be racing, go ahead and sit down. It's crazy, but not moving around helps. And then also while you sit down, you're taking yourself from your 5 or 6 or whatever height you stand at down to the floor. Now you're opening the cab up, and it's going to look larger. It's actually going to calm you down. So just something to think about and keep in mind. The other thing too is that the safest place actually for a passenger to be if the car were to stop working is inside the elevator. There is multiple redundant safety systems built into elevator systems that keep you safe, that keep that car from moving. And we'll actually go through a couple of myths in a slide here to talk about, but there's redundant systems that one over the other that will keep you safe. And the best place for you to be until we can get that car to a floor level, or plus or minus, let's say 6 inches of that floor level, is going to be inside that car. Our technicians have been trained to be able to diagnose and then get the car up and moving, or be able to drift that car in a safe manner by controlling the actual machine brakes to get you to a floor level, to open the doors and get you out. So the last thing we want is to have somebody taken out of the car through the car top, roof, emergency exit, things like that. There's multiple, other concerns when you go through that. Now, granted, the fire departments are trained to be able to do things like that, to get people out in a safety manner, and they're concerned mostly about your safety and your health at that point. Then the other thing too is when you are talking with building security, make sure that you're communicating any type of health issues that you may have. Do I have a heart? I have bad knees, or am I pregnant? Those are kind of things that can obviously elevate it. 40 hours a week during the normal workday, we have somebody here on site, so the response time is going to be extremely quick. If it's nights or weekends, where we have plenty of technicians that are working, but obviously being downtown, weekends are going to be traffic or anything like that, so the time to respond may be a little bit more than the normal 10 or 5 minutes that are on site during the day. So make sure you communicate that, because that helps building security make that decision of, okay, we need to elevate this to the fire department to be able to also help address the situation. Is there any questions in regards to anything that we've covered so far? No? Okay. So the last slide I have, and then I'll hand it over to Seth.
Tim's got it.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is going to be mine. I'm Tim Tone. I'm the elevator consultant for this project, so I picked the myths. The myth of elevators falling. The elevators have multiple cables on them, and they only need one cable to support the load. So, like, these elevators have 10 cables on them. Only needs one to support the load. So the elevator is never going to fall unless all of those cables were cut for some reason. And that's only happened one time in the history of elevators. And there was an airplane flew into the Empire State Building back in the 30s. We recently had an episode at the John Hancock Center where everybody, I'm sure, heard about it, and they said the elevator fell. The elevator didn't fall. Those are fast elevators, for one, and they got in up at the 95th floor, and as they were traveling down, one of the hoist ropes on the elevator broke. It's very unusual for that to happen, but it did happen, and what happened was the cable came down and fell on top of the elevator and triggered a safety device on the elevator that stopped the elevator. It came to an abrupt stop, so the people in the elevator, just the fact that the elevator was moving at 1,400 foot a minute and then came to an abrupt stop, they thought they fell. But there really was, it was actually under control the entire time until it did an emergency stop. So elevators don't fall. Just keep that in mind. That's only in the movies. Matt had already talked about the oxygen. There's venting systems that are built into the elevator structure, and you have a fan on top of the car that keeps air circulating through the car. So you're never going to run out of oxygen. The escape from the inside of a stalled elevator. It looks good in the movies, you know, you see the guy climbing up a ladder along the side of the elevator hoistway. Those ladders don't exist. That's in the movies. The safest place is to just be in the elevator and wait for somebody to come. And, you know, anyone stuck in an elevator, the best way to get them out of that elevator is for the doors to open and you walk out of the floor. You know, the worst situation is, again, Hancock. That elevator was stuck in between floors. It could not move. Fire department had to take out part of a wall and to pull the people out. Now that's not the nicest way to get out of an elevator. Being taken out of the top of the elevator isn't the way you want to go. So you really want to just kind of be patient, sit, wait for the elevator company to get the elevator to the floor and let you out. Talked already about the fact that, you know, a lot of people will say, well, why can't the building security or the building engineers get us out of the elevator? Why do we have to wait? Well, they're not trained to do that. It's a huge liability for everybody when you have somebody who's not trained in working on an elevator or removing a passenger from an elevator to do that. So, there's special tools that are used to open the doors when the car isn't completely floor level. Building people don't have those tools, they're not trained in how to use them, so it's really best to just, as much as you may not like it, you sit down and just wait a few minutes until somebody can come get you out of the elevator. Any other myths that you guys want to ask about?
Every movie you've seen is a lie.
Yeah. I know, it makes great cinema,
It does.
where they'll show somebody pulling open the doors in the hallway and the elevator is down below. You can't pull the doors open. There's a mechanical lock on each floor, so the doors won't open when the elevator isn't there. Again, they don't fall. Elevators are actually the safest form of transportation. So we got that going for us. So nothing else? No other myths? Somebody's got to have something.
Tim, there is one thing I actually, so you talked about the cables, right? So 6, 8, 10 cables, if they cut one, you wouldn't even know any different. We could cut 9 of the 10 and you wouldn't know any different, right? Well, if all of the cables are cut, then what would happen once that happens in the elevator?
Good question. So there's safety devices that, in the event that would happen, there's a governor on the bottom that monitors the speed of the elevator, and then it would actuate the safeties on the bottom of the elevator. So now we've all seen in the movies the elevator falling and the sparks coming from the bottom of the elevator. All right, that piece of equipment does exist. Right, it's not quite that dramatic when it happens because they set very quick. But so even in the event that an elevator would physically have a reason to fall, there is another device that sets to stop the elevator.
Yeah,
and then if that fails, there's the buffers down in the pit, which are some hydraulic devices that if the elevator hits it, then it's not the way you want to land. But there's so many multiple safety devices and redundant safety devices that it really is next to impossible for an elevator to fall.
I'd like to have you maybe expand a little bit. I know that some tenants have experienced the falling. I was in the cab and they reported that they felt like the car was falling.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what happens a lot of times is as the elevator's traveling and something malfunctions. So you have one of the door locks, the contact on it should malfunction. The elevator system sees that as, well, this is a problem, we need to stop. And so what you're really feeling is the elevator coming to a quick stop, an abrupt stop. It gives you the sensation that you could be falling. You're not actually falling. It's the elevator is actually doing what it's designed to do, and that is it's recognizing a safety failure and saying, okay, we need to stop the elevator. So that will give a sensation of falling. Even the same thing when you're going up. You know, you might get into the lobby and you're going up, and all of a sudden, you know, it does something and you feel like, you know, people go, oh, it fell. And now, not on this system, the selector on this system runs pretty much with the car. But some of the older equipment, you would get in the elevator and the doors would close, and just as you were leaving, the indicator would jump like 3, 4, 5 floors right before you even moved, and that was so that the system could kind of keep track with the elevator as it moved. And people would always, you know, I was in the field for many years, and I would get the call that, you know, they got in at 20 and the elevator fell to 18 and then bounced back up to 20. And I'm going, well, I got in at 20. What floor did you get off at? 20. Where they basically got in the elevator. The selector advanced, the car never moved, but they thought they fell. So the takeout from all of this is that elevators are very safe. They do malfunction. I mean, it's just going to happen. It doesn't matter how much preventative maintenance you do, there's always something that is going to fail. You know, we try to make it as minimal as possible. We want, you want the most reliable elevators as possible. One of the things that 77 does here that a lot of other buildings don't do is they have Kevin here 40 hours a week. That's not typical for a building of this size. But they've always done that. So it's all about preventative maintenance, which we get. They will fail. They won't fall. They're safest in the elevator.
And one thing too I'd like to reinforce as well is that in the U.S. and Canada we follow a code. It's ASME A17, and it is by far the most stringent code in the entire world compared to any other code that you'll find in Asia and Africa and even in Mexico. We have the most stringent code and requirements and testing and inspections. So just know between the maintenance that we're talking about, these different redundant safety systems and the code that we have to keep up to are all different things that play into the overall safety of an elevator.
The safety systems are tested annually, so the elevators are inspected annually. So it really is a safe form of transportation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that actually, it's a good transition here into our next slide with our elevator maintenance portion of it. So as we talked about here, Kevin is a dedicated mechanic, 40 hours a week. He's here doing maintenance, which consists of some of these items right here. And so you see it talks about the control panels, the hoisting machines, the equipment brakes, door modules, annual and full load safety tests. That's kind of just what Kevin does on a daily basis. So he'll go into the controller, and inside the elevator controller, the brains of the elevator, is a bunch of computer boards. So Kevin will replace those out. He'll make adjustments to it. He'll go over the door equipment, make sure that the operator's closing at the right speed, making sure it's opening fast enough. So inside the elevator itself, on each hallway door, you have these mechanical components. Well, those mechanical components work with the mechanical components on the elevator doors. And so those need to work perfectly to allow the doors to open up for you to get out of the elevators. So what Kevin does is he'll make adjustments to all those components to make sure that the elevator's working as best as possible. We had talked about entrapments, and we've talked about shutdowns. Kevin has been in the industry he's been with Kone for over 14 years now. He's one of the best adjusters that we have working for us. And one thing that he does and he takes pride in is having his elevators run as perfectly as possible and having the elevators in this building work as perfectly as possible. We have had instances where there was a shutdown or an entrapment, and Kevin had gone over it all day. He's been here working on it, trying to adjust it to get that elevator running at its optimum performance so that you guys can see, and the elevators are really a second thought to you guys. Is you get there, you know it's going to work, and you know it's going to get you to your floor as fast as possible. We also do annual safety tests, as Tim mentioned, and we do every 5 years we have to do a full load safety test. And what that is the elevators are all set for a certain capacity. And what would happen is you actually overload that capacity. You put on 125%. So if the elevator is 4,000 pound capacity, you're putting 5,000 pounds on that car, more than it will allow it to run with. And you're making sure that even with all that extra weight, all the safety components are working. Like Tim had mentioned, the governors, the safeties, the brakes. We go through and we make adjustments and tweak stuff and make sure that the elevators are able to support even more weight than it would ever allow for it to run with. And then, yes, go ahead, Kevin.
I personally tested the elevators here this year. I put the 5,000 pounds in, and then I got in the elevator and jumped up and down and tried to put the brakes down. So that's how I tested it. I tried it. That's how I feel good about it.
Right. And there's a whole, with that testing and inspection, there's a whole list of criteria that Kevin has to pass in order for Kevin to pass the elevator to pass the safety test. If it doesn't pass the safety test, we have to lock it out and we don't let the elevator run. And with all of that, we do have annual inspection certification program. It's called the AIC in the city of Chicago, and that's for the Central Business District. And just like the elevators have the redundant safety features, the city and buildings have redundant safety features. And this is hiring a third-party inspection company to come in and go over each different component of the elevators and the escalators and any type of vertical transportation you may have, making sure it meets code, making sure everything is working properly. Otherwise, they write us a list of things that we need to do, and we need to get those items corrected. And
Otherwise, they won't issue,
your certificate of inspection.
which is on full display in every elevator car.
Yes. Yep, that's required by code. It's required by code to be by the escalators, so that anybody riding it knows that escalator I'm riding is safe. It has been inspected, and the city's putting their name on it. So that's something that's done on an annual basis for every single piece of equipment in here. In addition to, we talked about Kevin being in here 40 hours a week. When he's not in here, because he can't live here as much as we wish he could, we have set mechanics who are on call for us. And we have mechanics who are around in the downtown area after hours and on weekends specifically set to respond to overtime shutdowns and overtime callbacks or entrapments in a timely fashion.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you are trapped on an elevator, should you not try to push the button that opens the door or try to push buttons for other doors? Just push the emergency button and leave instead of
Yeah, so you should, if you're trapped in an elevator, Kevin, I'll let you kind of go with the best practice on that.
If you're stuck in an elevator, you can't get the door open. Absolutely. Yeah. Because let's say the elevator gets lost, it's at a position where it stops in flight, and then it might rebound to the floor, maybe a fuel, a slow rebound. You could be at the floor, keep that door open, but they will open the doors.
Through vibrations in the building, through
years settling, those contacts can just be a little bit out of alignment. Something that occurs that's taking off that safety that could just not be connected. And you can be within very close to that door range to where then, as you said, the car can re-level on its own. You push that button and you're right there, and actually the car starts operating as normal anyway. But we want to also make sure that if that were to happen, they still report that so you can and then just readjust that.
Correct. Because if that were to happen, there's something that probably went wrong. And at that point in time, best practice would be to contact the building security, and they'll radio Kevin. They'll get him. Kevin will get over there and go take a look at that. And then with that, they're documenting everything with us in the office, and they're sending out that group thread. And it's the biggest priority for us and for Kevin to figure out what was going on with that elevator and make sure we correct whatever issue it was before we turn it back into service for you guys to use on a daily basis.
So just to recap, the elevator maintenance program is so important and so critical to, an operations of a building, and your safety is our priority. So we contract directly with Kone. However, I'm not an elevator technician, so I don't know what they do. So I hire an independent person to come in and certify that they are performing the maintenance in accordance to the contract, in accordance to city code. Tim Towen is here as our elevator consultant for the project. So as much as these guys, they're experts in what they do, I may not be, but I hire the right people to help ensure that everything is being done in accordance to the requirements. But more importantly, everybody here understands that safety, reliability, and really, end user comfort, it's so important for us. And we just want to, be transparent with all of our tenants. Anyone who has any issues, anyone who has a coworker who has a little bit of an alarmist behavior, I'm afraid, of these elevators, encourage them to pick up the phone, to contact the management office. We have full transparency. We will, provide you with any information. We will, walk alongside you and provide you behind the scenes information to make you feel more comfortable. These elevators are incredibly safe. We have a great maintenance program. We have, in my opinion, one of the best elevator technicians we've ever had at this building. And we have a great team supporting them. So again, I encourage everyone, it's a two-way communication. Keep those questions coming. Anything that you would just think about and you just want an answer to, by all means, pick up the phone and give us a call. All right, we're gonna.
Any other questions? All right.
Okay.
So with that, we'll move into the
Elevator modernization. So.
That's right, so you're keeping it. Hopefully all you guys know me by now. Andy Franzen, Director of Security here. I hope you all feel better about a lot of the stuff after we're talking about it. I know I do. So that's good. Now we're going to start talking about some fun stuff. What's that? Okay.
In a second, he's going to go over the modernization enhancements, just from a visual perspective. This is basically what the inside of the cabs are going to look like when we're done. So two 15-inch screens, video screens will be there. They'll have a surveillance video camera within the actual screens. So now we will have surveillance within the elevator cabs. We'll also have a two-way video communication. So if there is an entrapment or any type of emergency, you can actually press the emergency button, which will be here. This is press for help. And you will be able to, again, continue to communicate through audio. And if you're uncomfortable and you need some, additional assistance, the security officer on the other side will enable the video to, help with the situation if needed. This is an emergency light. The return panels now are actual wood returns. So you notice this is going to be a stainless steel, which will complement the interior center doors. The biggest thing that's different is all the buttons are gone. Does everyone notice that?
Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Other than that, the flooring is also going to be replaced, and there's a sample back there on your way out. You can take a look at it. But from inside the elevator, I just wanted to give you guys a little visual. This is a rendering, but basically the return panels will be replaced with the stainless steel, and we will be installing some additional technology within the cabs.
All right, so some highlights of the enhancements that are going to happen. We're going to be using Linnell's multi-technology Blue Diamond mobile credential readers. That is basically a fancy term for saying Bluetooth readers that allow smart technology. We're going to be using a new visitor management system that's going to incorporate QR code technology, which those are those little scan boxes that you get you see all the time. Basically, we'll explain it a little bit in a few minutes, but basically we'll be using that with the new visitor management system. Myrna just talked about the finish upgrades and the video screens. We're also going to be upgrading our intercom system to a new Ring Communications internal communication system that is going to help improve communication when we're talking to you. And then we're going to be switching to a new system called Destination Solution, which some of you have probably seen in the lobby right now, the new display we're using. That'll give you a little sneak preview of it. And John's going to talk a lot more in detail about that in a minute here. So with the security system, the Blue Diamond app that I talked about, that is basically incorporates a smartphone app, smart technology readers, again, Bluetooth technology, as well as what we're using now, and then mobile credentials. All this is going to be tied together in a cloud server and tied into our new security management system, which is called OnGuard by Linnell, replacing the system we've had now for several years. So it's going to be great, allowing a lot of very easy issuance and management of mobile credentials. The Blue Diamond credential, basically, like I said, that's going to deliver what we call Smart Option, which is an alternative to our key cards, right? So we can hopefully start getting rid of that very soon. And again, that's going to be a lot more convenient, as well as it's going to really enhance our security. We'll explain that in a minute. So how it's going to work is for mobile credentials, the great thing here, building management and a lot of your tenant contacts, you're going to be able to do your own administrative rights, issuing credentials and users and things like that, deleting as needed. So it won't all fall on me. On the weekend, if you need to do something quickly, you can get it done yourself.
And again, we will only have access to your own database,
Of course,
and only yours, okay?
absolutely. And then the OnGuard system, basically what happens is once we create that credential, whether it's myself or your tenant, once that credential is created, a link to download the Blue Diamond mobile app will be sent to you with an authorization code to activate it. So you'll take that invitation and go create your own app, just like you do for anything else in all of our other apps. The authorization will be basically based on the access levels we assign, which is pretty much how we do it now. Same thing, whatever access code level you have now, you'll have on the new system. Employees, again, will be empowered to use their phones to access the elevator, so you get up to the readers, and within about 5-6 feet, you'll be able to scan it and open doors. And
You don't even need to scan.
or I mean, I say scan, but I mean, it's going to read it, yeah.
So
It's
it's a
basically,
Bluetooth, it'll
yeah,
read
so-
it now, you don't have to do any of that
Right.
swiping, and it's just gonna read.
Okay, and so again, really, that's going to eliminate the need for key cards. So, current key cards, everybody has one right now. It'll be entered in the system, but in the future, we're really going to get away from issuing key cards. So, we're going to really strongly encourage and require eventually to opt out and move to building mobile credentials only.
Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about the image on the credentials?
Sure. That's kind of the baseline for what the app will show on your phone. Everyone, just like you have now on your badges, will have a number associated, which is how you track you in the system by a number. And then it'll say what company, whatever building information you want to associate with it. And there's actually going to be an update coming, we believe, late fall, that will give you the opportunity to actually switch it out to have your photo, so now you can actually update it, so you see this, and then you can just flash your phone at the security desk, and then it'll be your badge as well. So it's going to make it a lot more streamlined, so you don't have to worry about fumbling through. There's actually some options too, depending on your building, that say you're carrying a bunch of stuff into work, you can go ahead and activate and say, this is my pathway to work. So I go to the elevator, then I go up, and let's say my building card opens a Blue Diamond reader that's on your tenant space. You can actually say, I go to this reader and then this reader at a certain amount of time, and you can leave your phone in your pocket, and it'll access those doors within a certain time span. So that way, it's usually a big hassle. I know if I'm carrying a load of blueprints in my backpack, getting my phone or even my ID card out to do it, it's my wallet, it can be a hassle. So there's a lot of ways to make it simpler for you.
So this is basically enhanced security with the focus on tenant experience, as you want to feel safe, but you also don't want to have to, so this is our way of streamlining it. Yes.
And where will this be located? Where will you be showing your phone? The security desk?
So we're gonna go into that. The destination dispatch is in it.
It's also a very big upgrade on security because you cannot clone that at all. So I don't know if anyone's gone into 7-Eleven, you see those big key copy things. If you have the old technology cards, you can actually take your key card and put it into that machine and it'll duplicate it for you. So these are non-duplicatable. That's the right way to pronounce it. Yeah, so you can't actually go through it. It's a one-time code that's used here. But you can, however, transfer it from a phone plan. So if you upgrade your phone, they can just reload it onto one plane.
So if I have my phone and I program it so it knows that I always go to the fifth floor, right? So it goes, oh, maybe that day I don't want to go to the fifth floor. I want to go on the second floor because I'm meeting somebody for a meeting. How am I going to be able to overwrite that so it doesn't take me too long?
You'll always have 5, 6, and 7 pre-programmed, so no matter what, you're always going to have access to your floors. What he was saying, if you wanted to do something, would be mostly for your card readers, but because Morgan Lewis has a proprietary security system, our system is only on base building readers. Unless you switched over to Bluetooth readers, then we could complement each other. But in this particular case, you're going to be controlling access to your floors via the elevator.
And you do have the option to either swap out your readers to the building system or do the same system with the same readers, and then it would, even though it'd be 2 different databases,
Yeah.
they could use the same readers.
So it's just the reader that would make the difference on your side.
In the software.
Yeah.
What happens if a new employee doesn't have a smartphone?
So
He's still working.
But a new employee, because it says that no future card creation.
well, depending on the employee, if their employer has a proprietary system, it would be on the employer to issue the card. If it's on ours, we would probably assign a fob, which is just a little metal thing on this flip phone, per se, but whatever he carries, we could install a fob, which is just something that will give him a credential. Any other questions? That's even better. You just go to the front desk, you say who you are, and your image is going to come up, and we'll give you a temporary access for the day, which we can do remotely. You can also call your employer, and that person can also say, we're going to give you remote, and we can treat you as a visitor, a guest for that day, and that will expire whatever time frame your employer puts on there automatically.
It's very
And yeah, you'd have the same access levels that you normally would. But how often do we forget our key cards? Quite a bit, right? How often do we forget our phones? Almost no one. We never go out, never want to leave home without it.
Drive back, or
Yeah,
I can't
we go
live
back
without my
for it.
phone. I'm going
Yeah.
crazy.
Before we had this technology, I had to take one of these cards and deconstruct it down to just a magnet to build into a phone case for my boss because he forgot his card at least twice a week. So I had to deconstruct it and then build it into his phone case because they didn't have the smart fob that they have now. You can just stick it around to your phone.
So that's how it works for employees. How it's going to work for visitors. You'll be using a new security system, same concepts, but it's called Solo Insight, and it's going to be using that QR code technology. So once you register someone, they receive an email with that QR code in order to access the building, and then upon arrival, it's very easy. Either depending on what the tenant's preference is, They can either walk right up to the destination dispatch reader with that code on their phone, scan it, and go to whatever floor that they have access to, whatever floor you want them to go to.
Exactly. You
31
have
for
control
green for you
of
guys,
what
whatever,
floor
yeah.
they go to.
Yep. Or they can just, or they can stop the desk and check in and do the same thing. If they're not registered, that's the other thing. You stop at the desk, we issue a badge with that code on it. I know we got to get moving here, so. And that employee gets notified. That's important too. That once they scan, as soon as that thing is scanned, the employee whoever registered them gets notified that their employee has arrived and checked in. So I'm going to turn over to John to talk more about the destination dispatch in greater detail.
All right, I get to have the fun today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the differences that's going to happen in your elevators today. And one of the things I'd like to start off with too, that when we were selected as part of this, it was a long, exhaustive selection process. Safety and security were a big issue for them as far as the ownership, the property, the consultants. And we know that. And our North American headquarters is in Lisle, Illinois. We have a senior vice president who's a corporate sponsor for this modernization project. That anyone in this project that is not unhappy with Kone can pick up the phone and call Jay Dietz is his name. And he was with us during these scope review meetings. So we take this very seriously when we talk about safety and security. Entrapments, we don't even like talking about them really in our business at all. Who in the room is familiar with what I refer to as destination types elevator systems? I was like asking that because the advent of destination took elevators, in my opinion, from what we refer to as a bus stop to a limo stop. And it really does. What it does is it through making the decision where your end destination is, we then group the people together more accurately to get to your final destination. So there is increased handling capacity, meaning there can be more people in the elevator, but they're going to one destination or two. There's reduced journey time. We used to refer to in the industry waiting time, and that's from the time you used to press the button to the time the door opened. That's what we used to measure. We don't measure that anymore. We measure from the time you press your destination where you want to go to when you get there. The more quicker you get there, the better and more happy you are. Now, sometimes what we've referred to as well is that would take you sometimes longer in the lobby, but you will take less stops to get up. You'll take fewer intermediate stops. With destination, we group, like we talked about, grouped people together to get to that final destination. And we just call it more comforting because you get in an elevator that's going primarily to your final destination as well. So, how do you do that? They have chosen a selection for the security company as far as your card reader, your Bluetooth to get in this. So, depending on your credentials, what you'll end up having to do is that Bluetooth will pick up at your reader. And if you had the opportunity, I would really encourage you to go down in the lobby and see the destination display we have. We have an actual destination operating panel that will be at every hall, at every elevator bank throughout the building. So it's exactly what you're going to be looking at too and having at the end of it. So what you'll do is you'll swipe your credential or have it in your, as this particular case in Bluetooth, you'll have it in your pocket. That will then open up protocol to the floor you are assigned and can go to. And then what it will do is it'll tell you what elevator to go to. In this particular building, I want everyone to know your designations for the low rise will be L1 to L6. The mid rise will be M7 to M12. And the high rise will be M13 to M19. Or high rise. H. So they will show actually all the way up to a three-letter acronym. So when you see the designations, and we gave cards to everybody, I want everybody to know when this first started out, it used to just be A, B, C, D, E, alphanumeric. They have allowed us in the codes to allow for a low, mid, and high rise, and then have the numbers too as well. And then what you really do is you get told which elevator it is. Over each elevator, there'll be a designation or what we refer to as an elevator identifier. That elevator identifier will be different over each elevator. So whichever elevator it told you to go to, and it will tell you the direction too, by the way. So if you're at a destination operating panel and the elevator you're going to go to is back right, the arrow will show you back right. So you'll turn around and see that. The other thing they've taken to a great extreme here too as well is at each floor you're going to have these designations, and they're going to be long bladed elevator identifiers, and they will light up when that elevator comes that you have been assigned to. When the elevators are fully modernized, inside the door jambs, when you walk in the elevator, it will also tell you the floors that elevator is going to be serving, as another redundancy to remind you, are you getting in the right elevator? Okay? This is a kind of a little bit more of a description too for anybody that has any accessibility to, that you need. As far as in the elevator industry too, we refer to this as destination has really taken ADA to a higher level too as well. It allows more space in the elevator for that person. It allows more dwell time for the doors to stay open for them to get there, and the waiting time to get into as well. So all those things is going to help the handicapped person to be able to get to the right elevator. They will be able to press a handicap button. Audibly, it comes out. It will start explaining the floors that it serves, and then it will keep reminding that person to obviously then select the floor when it hears the right floor. Once they press that, it will then again audibilize to tell them back right, your elevator's L1 or L2. And then they can go to that elevator, and again what will happen is the doors will stay open longer, there will be more room for that person to be in, because it's already known, the system knows it's a handicap call, which is supposed to give you about 30% more space, 30% more time, and all that. So that will help too in all the accessibility functions you have. And anybody, and I've told this to Myrna too in the building, anybody has questions about these two, as far as if you have visually impaired, we can then assign and ahead of time give them how the elevators will be designated for their particular groups. So if that particular person's in the low rise, mid rise, or high rise, we can then go ahead of time and tell that person how eventually the future of those elevators will be numbered. Okay, so they know ahead of time when they start coming in the building what elevator is when they do get assigned that elevator. During the modernization, you now see these buttons on all your elevators now. When we convert to destination, in this particular case, we'll be doing destination right up front, starting with the low rise. And you will see the destination operating panels out in the lobby. You'll see the EIDs too as well. The elevators will not be modernized in the sense that they will not have those new fronts, and they will not have the jam dims we refer to that will give you the next stop or what floors that are serving. In that case, to be redundant as well for passenger safety and passenger comfort, these car operating panels that you press today will then become a position indicator of where that elevator is going to. So when you press at the, say, the low rise and you want to go to the 12th floor, it'll tell you go to L3. You see L3, you get in L3, and when you get in the elevator before it's been modernized completely, it'll actually have the button pressed 12 as well. It could also have other floors too as well if there's other people getting in the elevator. Okay? Is that clear? I want to make sure you understand it, because there will be cars, we will only take one car out at a time in each group. And so there'll be, at the end, when we start transitioning these new cars to the old cars, you'll see some cars with the brand new fronts and no car operating panels, buttons, and then you'll see some of the older ones that will have this. They'll still all function as a destination too as well as a group, which is really nice for you as a building.
So let me just throw something in here. And the reason that we chose to do this is putting the destination on up front instead of at the end gives us the advantages of the destination system and quicker service up front. So we're putting the dispatching system on up front and then taking each elevator out to modernize it. So the intent is that when they take an elevator out, you're really not gonna, you shouldn't notice a big difference in the traffic flow.
Mhm.
So we're taking advantage of the destination system up front.
Can you
Yes.
explain again, so you said this will operate via Bluetooth, so you download the app,
Mhm.
the floors that you have access to will be programmed in. So you don't have to scan anything, right? But if we have,
Will they have to? And the Bluetooth technology in their phone, the reader will be within the destination operating panel. So what I want to make sure everybody knows is
You had it on the other picture, fine.
right
Right
here.
there.
so you're,
Your reader will be right here.
That's the reader, isn't it?
That's the reader that you'll be scanning.
and so when would you be pushing those buttons right there? If it's reading,
There's two ways that we can set this up, and it's really dependent on how the building and they want you. You can actually have your reader, your reader assigned to your home floor. So immediately, what happens when that's scanned, that is already pressed to the floor you want to go. Or it opens credentials up for a myriad of floors. Because the question already came up,
right?
what happens if I all of a sudden go to the fifth floor, and then I want to go to the seventh floor? That can still happen, even if it's set up on a home floor. And I really say that openly because even Tim knows this. It happens all the time where people go to a particular floor 75, 80% of the time, and then the 20% they don't. They would rather have their card read the fifth floor than the seventh floor. It can make a call to the fifth floor, but you can still override if the security system knows you're still allowed to go to fifth, sixth, or seventh. Does that make sense? But if you try, in security, if you try to go to another floor, these will be black. They will not be available to you to go to.
It's disabled.
Just like today, when you push your card in, you know, it opens up protocol to specific floors. It's the same thing in destination. Is if your company has fifth, sixth, and seventh, we'll just call it, those are the floors that your
Profile.
credentials are access
So I will
to.
have to push one of those buttons to say which floor I want to go to of my.
We can, like I said, we will partner with the security company because it really depends on how they want to set up your home floor. If you want a home floor, that's available in the system, okay? That is definitely available, and many companies would rather me set it up with the access company. Swipe, I know I'm going to 7, the call's already been made. I don't have to physically press 7. Does that make sense?
If you were gonna go to a different floor, so say you go to 7 every morning,
Yeah.
and then, like, if someone else had said, all right, you know, you have a meeting at 5 that morning, your block of floors comes up, and you can just press 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it'll override the
Seven.
the 7.
And if we need to go to the building management office, is that?
Oh, you can't go there.
You can't.
Disabled. No,
Disabled.
yes, absolutely. So it's on a multi-tenant floor, everyone will have access because it's multi-tenant. But if it's a dedicated floor, you'll only have those floors and so for Greenberg employees won't be able to go to the ADM floor and vice versa. And that's the security of it. And so there's never this concept of, oh, I can press another floor. It's all gonna be disabled. Only your profile will allow for your floors. And during the hours that you want.
Okay, so, we've been able to packages of mail throughout the building. I noticed that in the morning time when there is mail, certain floors are not operable at certain times. Like maybe it kicks in maybe at 8:30, 9 o'clock. But if I'm here at 7:30 your mail comes in, I can't get to your floor until someone probably mails me something. So is that gonna be the same way when you all start this system?
Yeah, again, we're being respective of the tenants' requirement of not opening their offices until a certain hour. So basically, we're following their protocol. There's tenant space, it's a private space. So whatever time that they will officially open, your reader will work.
Okay.
Couple more things I want to tell you about Destination 2. It's always, I want you to know is, no matter where you go in this building, the first floor is always accessed. You don't have security to get to that floor. That's code required. On all this with access, you may always get to the lobby without swiping your card or anything from any part of this building. Okay, that's just a code requirement we have as well. So it's kind of a good thing for you too, to just know that you can get out if you need to. Okay. One of the things we wanted to go over a little bit is, will there be screens and or music in the elevators? Myrna did show you there's going to be screens. They're going to have two 15-inch flat screens. They'll have content in it. But another thing that's really nice about it from the security aspect, that's a two-way video as well. So they can have access to that at any time for security reasons, and actually then talk to you and see you, and you can see them as well. So that's a really great feature, and it's really nice just from a safety perspective too as well. Music, no. There used to be the old days, Tim's been around, there's no elevator music left. Unless you guys want to play your own music, they're not putting music in the elevators at all.
Everybody's got their headphones.
Yes.
The screens will also serve as video imagery and communication for tenant events. It also show the weather, train information, things that are pertinent to every day.
Once completed, will we still use the same elevator banks we do today to get to the same floors? Yes. The same floors that operate today, they'll be just operated in a destination-based system than a conventional press up and down button. How will access to each floor be maintained during the project? There will be no disruption to that access. So the access that you have today, credential-wise, safety-wise, is how you're going to have access in the future. The difference is your credential is now done on the outside than the inside of the building. Biggest difference. Biggest difference. One thing I want to back up to and just state too that it's going to happen in your building when I've seen it converted from up and down to destination. There will still be a tremendous amount of people that don't sit in this town hall meeting, won't listen to what's going on, hasn't seen destination, and will ghost ride. Okay. What we refer to that is this. Today, what happens is people are on their phones like this. Somebody else presses the button, ding happens, they are still down looking at their phone, walking straight into that elevator, okay, with everybody else. Because it used to be a up and down button. And they would get in the back of the floor and say, okay, when you press 22 for me, I'm trying to be very, but this happens all the time. In destination, they will not have that ability, okay? So what will happen is, that will happen once. And I always refer to this, destination is really a self-learning system too as well. You make one mistake, that's the mistake you'll make, and you won't make it again. Because truly, you'll have to take that whole run, and you'll have to go back down to probably the lobby, because the other floors are not access to get to your floor. Okay, so you have to come down, you make that one mistake. I just want to make that very open, and you'll watch people continuously. It's the people that know, but they've never seen the system, and they will do that. I've watched it, and by the way, when we convert this, there'll be a bunch of us from Kone in each bank of elevators answering any questions people have that didn't sit at this town hall meeting and haven't seen destination as well. And we have a lot of them. So we'll be here too to help you out as well as tenants.
I have a question.
Yes.
As much as we try to keep this from happening, we often have visitors show up that we're not informed of. What happens if a visitor shows up that's not registered?
They won't be.
Especially you'll be able to get to your floor.
So then they'll go to the guard's desk?
Yeah, they would have to go check in, and then reissue.
Yeah.
And once they scan the person that we've already contacted to authorize, we'll get an automatic email and it's saying your guest has arrived.
Okay. So the preference is
Yeah.
Howard does this all the time.
If that's your preference, we're gonna still, the human element of all of this is very important to us. We want to continue to provide that and then also provide the technical aspect of it that will help, streamline it to get you the information you need. If you're not at your desk.
Yeah, I just wondered, because my boss is famous for inviting people and not mentioning this to anybody ever.
Well, hopefully we can make your life a little easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and if they try to, at the destination operating panel, they try to operate it and it's locked down because of access, because that's the way the building wants, they won't be able to get to your floor either, if they try, even as a visitor. And they even know they're authorized to come. Yeah.
I just have a question on security. So right now, like security guards kind of knows who's in, who's part of the building, right? But also if they don't know, they ask for a key card.
Mhm.
So if we're going with, if some tenants are going with Bluetooth, obviously they're not gonna show the phone or whatever. So they could just kind of come through and ride it on the elevator with somebody else?
I'll answer that.
Mhm.
Actually, so they won't be posted at Clark and Wacker anymore. They'll be actually at the entrance of the elevator rise, the low, the mid, and the high. And you will show your credential, otherwise you're not gonna be able to go up anywhere. So you still have to show, and your picture will be incorporated, it'll literally be on your screen.
So you'll have to scan your phone?
You don't have to scan anything.
On Bluetooth, it's gonna pop out?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, but they're gonna be there checking anybody going in to just, because those readers gonna respond to those individual credentials. If you wanna use your key card, you can still use your key card and show it. We're gonna take both. Our goal is to do away with any plastic badging. But those tenants with their own proprietary system, they can continue to support their own system, and we're gonna continue to accommodate that. But we're just moving away from it and becoming more, user
No, I'm
friendly.
just thinking like, so I'm a stranger, right? I don't have anything, but I see people walking through, right? So if I see a mass of people going into this elevator, right, I'm just gonna kind of pretend like I belong with them, and then I just go into the elevator, and then I'll just go wherever they take me.
Yeah,
that's
so
what-
piggyback,
Yeah.
right, so
Go
yeah,
straight.
that's all you will always have that no matter what. Even if you have turnstiles, once you can piggyback and you're in there, or hey, you belong on another floor and wanna go and piggyback, that's always gonna be the case. That's why we always ask, be vigilant. Be familiar with, what's happening around you. Things happen anywhere, everywhere, so those are the things that we can, again, continue to emphasize. Our goal is to make sure that the right people are getting into the
Mhm.
building and onto the appropriate floors, and that we're, providing an expedited process for it.
Question again around security. How do you respond to employees who you happen to use their phone as being very invasive? Because you're gonna have to download an app.
Well,
They don't have to.
They don't have to, is what they said right away. If we carry around a fob to get in our office, okay? So people are more secured.
Yes, okay.
And yeah, and if you want to, the security company will do that. I know people are getting more and more sensitive about downloading something on my personal phone that is business related, right? So we're very cognizant. I know the security company deals with this much more than we do, although we have our own. We would then give you another type of credential that person doesn't want to use, because we're not going to restrict you access to this building because you work there because you don't want to have it. That's your right. So you can tell your people that they would get other credentials than the Bluetooth, right? That's a good question. It's a great question because it's one that's happening more and more.
Are there any data charges associated with the ongoing use of the app?
No.
No.
Once you have it on your phone, it resides on your
So they,
So it's licensed to your phone.
Just when you download it, you're using it.
Unless you jump on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, right.
What other question? Okay, go ahead.
So just to be clear, when we're walking into the elevator bay, I do have to unlock my phone and show you something on my phone, or I don't?
Security officers will, be posted
Be
at,
monitoring you as you come in and scan. You're gonna need it for your, to use the destination.
Yeah.
I understand when I need it, but I thought it was just gonna read it.
yeah, but if you don't have a credential, nothing's gonna show up.
You can do that, but it's not recommended, because if you're, let's say, you're standing near the thing, you don't want it to keep paying that as you're standing. So if you're waiting 3 minutes for it, after a certain number of times, or a certain timeout, it will reaccept that signal. So usually we tell it to just open the app and then it'll do the Bluetooth signal, because you don't want it to hit every door you walk by, or you don't have to hit the exit reader as you're walking out of the elevator.
So I will have to unlock my phone, correct, for the security guards?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I can't, the phone can't just be in my briefcase and walking from the car into the elevator. I do at some point until I get out of shelter. Yeah.
Then you can use that protocol after that.
It's a good security aspect. I'll get to a couple of these others, and then I want to open up again for some questions. Please ask the contractors not to leave tools or materials in the hallways, as this is a safety hazard for everyone, especially those of us with disabilities. We take safety very seriously, not just with rider safety, but our own internal safety. Our people in the field, Kevin, the safety or the on-site technician full-time, and all our modernization people be here, get audited on how they do their job and how they do that around the public safety. Which that means is most of our stuff will be in the hoistway and in the machine room away from you. Now, the elevators that are going to be modernized, there's going to be a barricade around at a particular floor that will be, and we're going to be talking to Myrna about that and the whole building about where that needs to be. Okay, so it's less obtrusive to you, right?
How gorgeous it's gonna look.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be a yellow barricade. We know that. It will be a mall form, which typically we use in other arenas too, which is very nicely pleasing, but it'll keep you away from that. So we take this very seriously, and I will tell you, they took an extreme amount of protection for you as a tenant in this modernization bidding process. They had all particular machine rooms that were more challenging to get to, i.e. the mid-rise, I will just speak to it, that is all done, the access in and out to get material in and out, and all the heavy and the smelly stuff is going to be done on overtime. So it doesn't reflect in the tenants and stuff. Our job is to hopefully be at a place where you don't even know what's going on. And we're just turning over elevators to you. The elevators are not safe and people keep getting stuck in them. What is being done to ensure safety and keeping them informed during the modernization? I hope from the beginning process, from our speak of Matt and Seth and Kevin has from a safety perspective, and the myths that Tim talked about, that you have a better awareness of really how safe you are in elevators. I think Tim's statement is elevators are the safest form of transportation. They are. They're the safest thing you're going to be in. It's just taking the precautions that we talked about as well. What's the time frame for this project, start to finish? I'm going to let Tim Moran, as our project manager, has been going over the submittals and everything, just to kind of briefly just give you kind of an overview. And I know Myrna gave you an access to the project too as well.
Yes, I'll make this quick. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the key dates that would impact you guys. I think it's kind of been discussed, but the schedule is definitely set up to minimize the impact to you guys. So we basically are taking only one car out of each bank. We'll be working on one car in each bank simultaneously throughout the project. Service elevator is going to be the first car. That is starting on August 15th, and we expect completion on November 7th. We know it's a critical piece to this building. We're going to be working around the clock, where we got 2 shifts, working 6/10s. So we're hoping to pull that in for you guys, since we want to minimize the impact.
So we sent out some communication on that. We encourage you to purchase any, surplus of materials, that whether it's water, anything that's heavier, that you can, you can actually stock up during the 12 weeks, so you don't have these constant repeated orders, so that they're not delayed. Our goal is to try to do everything, have you guys set during that time frame, so that you are receiving lighter type of deliveries throughout that process, so making it easier for everybody, so we don't put a lot of stress on the passenger elevator that's going to serve as a temporary service elevator throughout that 12-week period. So I encourage everyone, our cleaners are actually doing behind the scenes, is how do I get them on every floor at night. We have everything already taken care of. We have toilet paper supply to last us through that time period. Those things come in crates, and so just think, what would I like to just have on hand and not have to worry about. Our goal is to try to lighten those loads so that we continue to operate with those day-to-day deliveries. those of you with Iron Mountain, we are working directly with them for the shredding. They are going to be taking some special procedures to get the fiber out of the building, as well as UPS and FedEx. So we will be working with them behind the scenes so that you guys can continue to get your packages on time.
And you will have some temporary cars set as
Yes.
service cars. So then after, well, the first thing that we're going to be doing is doing the destination upgrade. That's where we got to come in and do some work in the hoistway, where you'll start seeing the EIDs installed. You'll start seeing the DOPs, the destination panels that we've got out in the lobby. You'll start seeing those. That's going to start end of August, early September. And then we would be rolling in the low rise first, mid rise, and high rise. So we expect the conversion of the low rise to be November 14th, mid rise to be December 2nd, and the high rise December 16th. Once we have everything converted to the destination, that's when we roll into the elevator modernization, where we start taking an elevator out of service. And that's going to be for about 15 weeks, 16 weeks for each elevator. That's where we're going to be. We put the car on a floor that's no impact to everyone. We tear out the cab, or the fronts of the cab, and we do all the renovation work to it. And then we also start going through the hoistway and all the mechanical equipment. And so, like I said, that process is about 15 to 16 weeks. Once that elevator is done, it's turned over, we move over to the next one. And like I said, we'll have 3 crews here, 1 crew working on each bank simultaneously throughout the project. So that is going to be starting approximately mid-December. And this is a long project since we're only doing 1 car at a time. So we're looking probably second quarter of 2022 where we would be complete with the project. So we're going to be here for a while. My goal as a project manager is to minimize the impact that you guys don't even know we're here. The other thing is our crews work separately from Kevin. So Kevin is not involved in modernization. He's still doing his thing, maintenance on the existing elevators. Our crews are completely separate. So we're just doing the modernization.
Yeah, and there's a lot that we didn't talk about from a mechanical standpoint. We just felt that we don't want to overwhelm you, but behind the scenes, when we take out the cars, there's going to be a lot of mechanical upgrades behind the scenes that they're going to be doing in the mechanical rooms. Also, the with HVAC, all of that is going to get upgraded. Didn't want to overwhelm you. We wanted to focus on the end user experience and what to expect.
And then finally would be, you've got the shuttle cars up on the top floors, 5051, then you've got your parking shuttles. Those are going to be starting around September of 2020. Those don't have destination. Those are just getting a regular modernization. So those will continue to function the same way that they are now. So that's kind of it. And then we will be doing the handicap lift as well. We'll be upgrading that when that comes in. We'll finalize the date on that.
I have a question that was emailed to me. Is this new Linnell OnGuard system accessible for our resource who is blind? For a resource with blind?
As far as, well, I think that the biggest one is for a person who's visually impaired navigating the app. The easiest way would be to stick to a standard proximity cover.
Yep.
They can do either.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
they can.
Yeah, I'm sure with Siri, I'm sure you could open the app. So.
Yes, they can.
Yep.
They can speak to it.
Are there any other questions at this time? Thank you guys so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. We're still available in the management office for any questions. And if you guys need anything in the interim, please let us know. Again, before we kick off, we're all going to be in the lobby. We're going to be showcasing it and making sure that everyone's familiar with it on the day that it goes live, whichever elevator bank. We're not going to just let you guys come to work, and we're going to be there guiding and showing everyone until they're comfortable.
When will they start using the app?
So kind of along those, so yeah, just I'll touch on that real quick. So we go through, we do all the work where you guys don't see it. What we do is we come in over a weekend. So you'll come in on a Monday and you'll have destination. So that's those dates that I told you. Yeah, it's starting in November low rise, and then December mid rise, and then mid December for the high rise. And that date will be communicated from the building. But we come in with our engineers and we convert everything over the weekend. You guys come in on Monday and you've got a new system.
In
So-
our security key card system, we're gonna export our credentials now that we have for each and every one of you into our new system. And so we're gonna be creating those profiles, but we're gonna be reaching out to the tenants to ask for information that we may not have today. And it might be a phone number, it may be email, so that you're able to utilize the system to its fullest capacity, whether it's, I wanna be notified that my guest is here, or I wanna be, I want this information to be sent to me. We're gonna be reaching out to that, but as far as your credential, the card number you have, all of that's just gonna be imported into the new system. But we're gonna be working with you guys to obtain the latest and greatest employee profile and access on how you want it to. And then we're also going to, at the back end, once everyone's comfortable, we'll come back out and reach out to tenants and say, do you want access to your database? So if you have a, employee who gets terminated on a Friday at 5 o'clock and everybody's gone, you're able to go in and terminate that access yourself.
Is the 24/7 surveillance, is it more for going to look at it after the fact if there is an issue, or is it something that's going to be monitored actively throughout the day?
It's probably a little both, depending on, we constantly have cameras that we're monitoring on an ongoing basis. In this particular case, you're always gonna have activity, so you're not gonna have these alarms that we usually have after a certain hour. We don't like to see any activity. If the camera senses any movement, it'll send an alarm to the front desk, and it'll start recording. Because the elevators are meant to have constant traffic, it's more on, hey, I fell, or someone did something to me, or, and it's more of trying to, have something to go back and review. Anything else? Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
I think the video in the